Also going to go via the eastern boundary of Djuma, just because Brent tells me that he saw Karula crossing into Torchwood yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I assume he was talking about yesterday on his way back from Cheetah Plains. So that's part of the plan this morning. And, oh, it's okay, Wendy. We have Elvis keeping us company as well, Sam's Elvis. Sam is having a well-deserved birthday lie-in this morning. But as we drive along, we drive in the tracks of giants. Sorry, flying leaf there. We were treated last night during Sam's birthday party to the presence of elephants all around the house that we live in, munching away quite happily while we enjoyed the birthday festivities. A truly lovely evening and a great welcome back to being back in the bush. And just to clarify as to where I disappeared off to for the weekend, I made a very short whistle stop to the UK, which was highly entertaining, and I did feel incredibly strange yesterday, having traversed the continents sort of twice in 4 days. But I went across for the honorary graduation that we had in Cambridge. It was a very strange experience because, of course, I haven't actually, just to let you know, I haven't actually earned a master's degree so much as after a certain period of time and without getting arrested or divorced, neither of which I've done, but of course then neither of which they would have known even if I had. Then for some reason my honours degree turns into a master's. So that's where I was. I didn't really, I have to be honest, I didn't really achieve it so much as just get gifted with it. As the warden of the college described it, we were basically freeloaders returning, that was his speech to us, freeloaders returning to claim our MA degrees. But it was a wonderful time to see people that I spent a great deal of time with over 3 years, and then of course came back to South Africa and didn't see again for another 4. So it was truly special occasion. I have not yet quite recovered myself though. Now Aaron is saying that it's good to see me again. Thank you very much, Aaron. And that let's go find some hyenas. And I think that will be the plan at some stage in the next few days. We'll try and figure out where those hyenas have gone. By the sounds of it, by the devastating sounds of it, they have shifted across towards Buffelshoek. I doubt it though, somehow. Brent said that he saw a very heavily pregnant female. It remains to be seen. I need to follow up on those hyenas and just see exactly what's going on with them. And of course they do move den sites, and it was about time. That being said, they could still be around Aubrey's Road, and we just haven't been lucky with them over the last few days. But I completely agreed, Aaron. I'm dying to see how the little hyenas are doing. And we are due for the next set of cubs, not from the same mothers as our current cubs, but from possibly some of the more, the lower ranking females from the clan. So I think what I will keep doing over the next few weeks is just keep checking the den sites for any sign of them. Even the den sites that we haven't necessarily seen the hyenas at for a while. And just looking around, it's always an interesting thing being absent from the bush, even just for a few days. I can see that the elephants have been hard at work, landscaping the area. We're going to see more and more of that as the drought goes on. My friend Emma sent me a video of the lions where I used to work, drinking from the swimming pool outside her bedroom. So already the animals feeling the impact of the drought. Yes, I think that the plan for this morning will be to check along the eastern boundary, if provided, of course, I can keep my earpiece in. Hold on a second. So one problem with winter, of course, is that I've got 10 million layers. And in fact, I don't think I need the spotlight anymore. I've got 10 million layers, including a scarf. And it's not very conducive to effective cabling. There we go. Seems to be working. I have, of course, abandoned all attempts at a beanie, given that it doesn't really work all that well. And I block out my hearing A, and B, beanies just for some reason on my head look ridiculous. But thank you all for your warm welcomes back. I'm very happy to be back. I had an absolutely marvelous time, but I was actually, in a way, very excited to return to a little bit of normalcy back in the bush. Normal, of course, for our lives being slightly different to the standard definition of normal, but nevertheless, it is what we know and what we love. Should actually be avoiding all dips. Okay, well, as we head across to Cheetah Plains, there is somebody else who would like to say a very warm good morning to you all. So let's jump onto the back of Jigger and let Brent take you away.
Welcome to the Sunrise Safari. My name is Brent and I got Vim on camera with me, and we're in search of Shadow and her cub. So far, not good news. There's no tracks of her coming out of Hoffman's. We're just doing a little loop around to see if she possibly come out, but at the moment it looks like she might have moved further into Hoffman's. So we're going to go a little bit further, and if we get no sign of her, we're going to go look for something else. What's that in the tree there? It's that big moon at the back there. It just looks like a solid silhouette of it. Nah, it's just a bunch of leaves. Okay, so no tracks of her coming out, so we might come check here later on the safari. But we're going to head back towards the northwestern corner and see if the lions might have made an appearance up there. But no sign of a shadow coming out of this corner. But I love these misty mornings. I mean, look at this. Isn't this absolutely exquisite? Low-lying mist. Not too cold. Definitely warmer than it was yesterday. Oh. Hyena. Hyena, hyena, hyena. Becky would like to know who got the honour of dousing Sam's birthday bucket of water. Well, it was me, Becky, but we didn't use a bucket because it's winter. It'd be a bit nasty to do it in the cold, so we just used a large glass. But you missed the after drive catch up yesterday, and we doused him live. So you're just double checking there. There's also hyena tracks. Now we could hear the lions roaring for a lot of last night, but unfortunately they sounded to be exactly where they are, which is still on that buffalo carcass in Cheetah. There's 2 Inkahumas there and 4 Birminghams. So the other 3 lionettes were found in Buffelshoek. So I'm going to go check, and hopefully they might have come back towards the west and towards us. Now, Siberia is asking about any reports of wild dog or wild dog pups. Now, Siberia, interestingly enough, I actually had a really long discussion with my friend Grant, who's the endangered wildlife Trust's wild dog coordinator for the Lowveld. And we chatted about the different packs. And the Investec pack is still in the Manuletti. It looks like they're going to den in the exact same spot as last year at the Dixie Corpies. And apparently the Sabi Sands pack has been seen to the west on Ottawa. And it looks like they're going to den on Ottawa. They have denned on Ottawa quite a few times in the last few years. So unfortunately, no wild dog pups in our general vicinity. We're probably only going to see them when they get moving, as we did last year. There's something on the road there, Liam.
Yeah.
What is that? Hyena. No. Jackal. It's a jackal. It's running towards us or running away from us? Away. Let's get a bit closer. It looks like a black-backed jackal. And it's running towards us. Oh dear. I hope it's not a domestic dog. It's not. It's a side-striped jackal. See, we don't have to go all the way to Cheetah Plains to find jackal. Ooh, he suddenly noticed us. So poor Sam, I know he's been desperately waiting to see a jackal. And here we have one trotting straight at us. They are absolutely gorgeous little predators. You can see that definitive side stripe there, and another one of the diagnostics is the white tip to the tail. So look at that. Oh, they're just exquisite. So a true omnivore, the side-striped jackal, just as at home eating insects and fruit as carrion. Actually, in a lot of cases, they eat a lot more fruit and vegetable matter than carrion. Sorry guys, just listening to the Game Drive channel for a second there. Now, the last time I saw jackal was actually with Vim, and we actually saw a bunch of jackal pups as well. And that was on the Arathusa airstrip. So let's see if we can follow this guy for a little bit longer. So side stripes eat quite a lot of sort of termites, grasshoppers, fans of marula fruit and wild cucumber. Of course, it's been a difficult year for fruit. Not much of it about this year. Where are you off to now, Mr. Jagalas? Amazing how it came jogging straight towards us, like saw us. No, let's go back the other way. But still not unrelaxed. I mean, if it was very unrelaxed, it would sprint off, but it's just loping around at its general jackal speed. You hear that, Phil? Yes, and I think it sounds like there's some elephants in the thickets here. And there is an elephant. Just heard the branch breaking. What a lovely way to start the morning with a side-striped jackal. So those elephants in some really thick bush. I'll try to find some in the open a bit later. And the jackal leaving the road. It looks like he is heading towards Impala Plains. Nope, coming back. Back on the road. Now, side-striped jackal often alarm at leopard and lion, and they have a very distinct alarm call. A very strange sounding alarm call. But I think one of the strangest sightings I've ever heard was actually in the Sabi Sands. We heard the side-striped jackals alarming incessantly. And they did have a den with a couple of little pups in the area, so we assumed there was possibly a big predator around. And we rushed and we were looking, and then we saw the jackal, and they were looking and alarming. And then it turned out that there was a massive python about 4 meters long that was eating the pups out of the den, and the side stripes were alarming at the snake. I wonder if this is not one of the pups that we saw on the Arathusa airstrip that has now become independent and is searching for its own little niche in the world. Heck, while we can, we might should enjoy the jackal jogging on the road in front of us. We're going to try to stick with it for a while. Jog. I think this jackal might jog faster than James. What do you think? Liam? A little bit faster than James. Definitely think it's got more stamina.
Get longer legs too.
Yeah, longer legs. Off the road. Last time it did that, just sort of zigzagged back on. We used to see a pair on Impala Plains quite frequently, but they're still there. Back on the road. Ooh, something interesting to smell there. And there goes the jackal towards Impala Plains, ducked off. So apparently there's a few requests to see a jackal track. And a jackal track is very, very similar. Let's try and find one in some soft sand. The problem is that this jackal is not walking, it's jogging. So the track is not going to be extremely clear. Oh, I don't know how easy it's going to be to see these tracks. Those up there were the easiest. So as I said, they're not going to be the most clear tracks because the jackal was jogging. Look at that there, Liam. There we go. Let me just move the vehicle a little bit more. Okay. Let's see where Liam is. Yeah, as I said, it's jogging tracks there, so that's probably the best. So not very, very clear. It's pretty much very similar to a domestic dog or a wild dog track, just a bit smaller. And you see the two very sharp claws that leave the front. So they're not the easiest tracks to see because, unfortunately, the jackal was jogging. And it wasn't sort of standing or walking nicely. But a really nice way to start the sunrise safari with an animal we don't see too often, but from one of the small creatures. Let's go to Jamie, who's got the tallest living mammal in the world.
We did have a beautifully clear view of one of Africa's tallest mammals, or the Africa's tallest mammal. In fact, the tallest mammal in the world. There we go. The sentence came out eventually. Unfortunately now, he's decided that he would far rather be feeding off one of those bush willow trees at the back, and we've lost our prime position in which to see him. We've actually been sitting with him for the last 5 or so minutes, just enjoying some of the peaceful time that only a giraffe sighting can actually provide. He went up at one stage to the dry tree, or the dead tree, and started scratching the mangy spot that he has on his forehead. Let's see if I can get a different view of him, a slightly better one that doesn't consist of... It's okay, Wendy. Of spots through trees. Let's try this. Try this again. Standing by.
Just in that next, I've been listening to all the channels. There's male leopard tracks across into CP around the lodge. And there are also tracks of the Cheetah around the coral boundary.
Copy that. Thanks very much. Brent just giving me an update on what's happening around Cheetah Plains. Apparently there's leopard tracks wandering about the lodge, as well as cheetah tracks around Nkoro, which of course is the neighbor of Cheetah Plains. So we've got exciting stuff as possibilities for this morning's sightings. Oh, lovely giraffe male, big, beautiful dark bull, has decided to be somewhat camera shy this morning and has in fact pretty much hidden himself behind the leaves. He does give us a wonderful opportunity to watch those nimble lips and tongue work together to wrap around the different leaves of what looks like a knobthorn tree. It's not very pleasant to eat, unless you're a giraffe, in which case it is the perfect breakfast. There's horrible, hooked, very sharp thorns. Most people living in the bush have experienced their wrath at some point. It's always interesting to watch when people go for their first bushwalk the guides will deliberately walk into one type of tree in order to avoid the other. And very often I've had guests look at me like I'm ridiculous and try and power through the easiest looking path, only to find themselves thoroughly entangled in either knobthorn or buffalo thorn trees with their hooked and curved thorns. There's a bit of patch mange on his neck. Isn't he beautiful and dark? Very typical of a mature giraffe bull. They do darken with age, as do all giraffe, but it's particularly prevalent in the males. And once they reach their mature age, they become what's known as a stink bull, and they start to secrete a very smelly substance. And it's only when you get right up close and personal with them that you can really smell it. But it smells almost like feces. It's not a very pleasant smell at all. Look at that neck. I think that's just a skin disease, some kind of mange or something similar. Although it does almost look as though there are scars there as well. But I think that's just come from the mange. Giraffe seem to be somewhat susceptible, even more so than the other animals, to different types of skin disease, as well as a variety of the herpes virus that gives them all kinds of polyps on their skin. I haven't seen it that much since I started working in this area. It is very, very common within the population of giraffe in South Africa. And every now and again you just get a glimpse of the bald tips of the ossicones. Good morning, Hayden. How wonderful to have you on the back of our safari vehicle. Hayden, of course, being a much beloved presenter. Hayden, I do hope that you are well wherever you find yourself on this particular morning or afternoon, depending on which time zone you're in. You wanted to know what the temperature is this morning. It's not that bad, actually. I'm feeling slightly overdressed now that I've come to a standstill. It's 18 degrees, 64 in Fahrenheit. There you go, I remembered at that time. Nice and warm, really, for a winter's morning. I don't quite know why it's so warm. It's only really in the shallow dips that one really starts to feel the nip of the coming winter. I actually really do feel slightly overdressed. I'm all bundled up. The giraffe, of course, being completely impervious. And a beautiful morning to be out on foot. And since our giraffe hasn't really been terribly cooperative in terms of posing his best side for camera, we're going to head off towards Cheetah Plains. And in the meantime, on this lovely morning to be on foot, Steph is out and he would like to say hello.
Isn't that a wonderful sight? Totally opposite to what we had yesterday, where it was so brilliantly yellow and orange that you couldn't even look at it when it arose. This morning the sun is slightly muted, and it's because it's quite muggy. It's muted and a bit sticky in the air. I almost fell off the termite mound while I was speaking to you. I'm Stefan Winterboer, and you're on the bushwalk this morning with myself and Dave. Well, coming back to that sun, I just have to remark on it. Of course, it's going to get so bright as soon as it gets a little bit higher, but you can see that it's obscured by a band of cloud, and that's because we are in our autumn and there's a whole bunch of cold fronts that are marching towards the southern tip of Africa, and what that does is it pushes a column of air in front of it off of the continent and onto the Indian Ocean, and we get these cloud banks forming as soon as that air meets the cold oceanic air. And that, where you're looking right now, is Mozambique. A little bit underneath that cloud is where the sea is, not too far away from here. Probably about 100 miles if I were to draw a line away from where I'm standing now to where we hit the sea sand. So not too far away. But have a look at that sun. Big red orb. Normally we can't look at it like that. This time of the morning I'm already seeing red spots or yellow spots. Now, why I almost fell off this termite mound is because I'm standing on one of the termite mounds that I really enjoy visiting at this time of the morning. The reason being is that these termites are usually quite active. Not every termite mound is active, but this particular termite mound is very active, and I enjoy coming to this termite mound. And look what we've got here. We've got three things happening over here. One is, because the temperatures are cooling down, the termites are closing up their chimneys. And you can have a look over here at the chimney. This is a chimney. Inside of here there's a chamber, and that chamber is used to collect warm air and expel it from the center of the termite mound. And the reason for that is the termites are farmers. These particular termites are fungus farmers, and they, to grow the best fungus, need to keep their termite mounds at the exact temperature and humidity that's needed for that particular fungus. It's around about 37 degrees centigrade. Now, what that is excuse me, 27 degrees centigrade, not 37, 27 degrees centigrade. Now, what that is in terms of Fahrenheit, I'm not too sure, but it's probably around 80, somewhere around there, 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and so quite warm in actual fact. What they do is they start to cover it up, and you can see the mud here that they've done last night. This is some mud that they've put here last night. It's actually a mixture of sand, cellulose, and saliva, and that they chew up and they make into a little ball, and each of these little grains is placed here very carefully by a worker caste of termites. So now they're closing it up, and the reason for that is so that they can keep the hot air inside of this, so that they can grow their fungus over winter. But what it is, it's such a hugely awesome column of hot air. This entire basin that I'm feeling here at the moment is just warm air coming out. We're going to try and show it to you, Dave. It's about warmest here. You're going to see the lens fog up quite soon, hopefully. There we go. You can see the lens fog up. That is how much humidity is inside that. And if you had to put your hand here, it's actually the same as putting it in an oven. It's actually quite amazing. Now, another amazing thing, and the third thing that I wanted to show you about this particular termite, is we've got a termite hunter that's active here. Termites are the most wonderful source of protein. Birds from all over the world, and I'm talking as far as the eastern side of Russia, come all the way here to South Africa to feast on the termites that we have here. And because of that, you have, well, not only birds, but you also have some spiders that prey on them. And here we have a spider called the daddy long legs spider. It's right there, Dave, at the point of my finger. She has got those long spindly legs so that she can stay out of the reach of those worker termites with their ferocious jaws. You might have seen James sacrifice a finger or two. He quite enjoys sticking his fingers into these termite mounds. I don't. There you go. There she goes there. And you can see that she used those long spindly legs of hers to stay out of reach, and then she basically drops onto a termite, bites it on top of its head, puts her poison into it, which immobilizes that termite, and then what she does is she lifts herself up off the ground with that termite so that the soldier termites don't bite her. How fascinating is that? Now, quite often these little daddy long-legged spiders are confused with one of South Africa's most poisonous or most venomous spiders, the violin spider. But the violin spider, they're sedentary and they like to live underneath logs. They're not termite hunting spiders, whereas the daddy longlegs is a termite hunting spider and not dangerous to us at all. Alright, and that's that for this termite mine. I'm quite happy that we got to show it to you. They will close up this little hole. There's about this much left. They will do that this evening, I have no doubt, and then this termite mound will be closed for us. We won't be able to see inside of it again until the season changes, which will be around about August, I think. August, September, they'll open up this termite mound again. And that's all we've got. So goodbye to you guys. Have a good winter. We'll see you again next season at the end of all the... Now, let me try not to fall down here. It's quite a massive termite mound, this, I must be honest with you. Mobile Paddy has just asked me a question about how the female, the queen of this termite mound, regulates the amount of castes that there are, the amount of winged alates or reproductive castes, the soldiers, the workers. It's an unknown at the moment, to be quite honest with you. They think it's got something to do with pheromones, although they don't really know. So they might, and I'm talking about they as the academics all over the world. They've been studying termites for decades at the moment. The books that I have, unfortunately, at my disposal don't say how that's done. All that they do say is that a queen will live for up to 15 years, and in some cases, in some species of termites, up to 25 years old. and she will produce an egg every 3 seconds for her whole life. Can you imagine? Every 3 to 5 seconds, an egg comes out. That egg is pre-programmed to be a caste. That caste will be that for the rest of its life. In other words, a worker termite will never become a soldier, and a soldier will never become a reproductive alate. They are born specific. And for that, they say that termites behave as a super colony. And by super colony, we're looking at bees, wasps, ants, and termites. It means that all the individual members are not seen as an individual, they're seen as a total organism, one organism. So what you're looking at there is the den of one organism, made up of many, many different parts that are individuals. Unlike us, for instance, we've got many, many different parts, but they're all glued together. The termite colony, or an ant's nest, super colony, one organism that's got many individual parts. But have a look how big it is. We're still actually standing on this termite mound, believe it or not, even though we're probably about 15 yards away from it at the moment. I'm going to move to what I think is the extremity of this particular termite mound, and that is here. And I'm going to say why I'm saying this is that hot air that's coming up from that particular termite mound over there is being drawn into this termite mound through these holes. These are the exploration holes. Here we go. These are the exploration holes all over here of this particular termite colony. And what they do is that hot air, the termite mound itself, is actually just a big air conditioning unit. The termite mound itself gathers all that hot metabolic heat, pushes it out that chimney, and it draws the air in through here. And that's how they control their temperature in their termite. But I'm standing at the extremity of this termite mound here, and I'm basing that on the fact that I'm not seeing any more of these exploratory holes here for wood chips. And look how far I am away from this particular termite mound. We are easily, how far do you think there, Dave? I think about 30 yards, 40 yards. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Very, very big machine there. Mother Nature's air conditioner. Now, I know it's taken a bit long to explain termite mounds to you, and because I've taken so long, Jamie is dying to tell you what she's got in front of her.
Welcome back. I'm not Jamie, as you can see, but you're with me now, and we're on the northern boundary, and there's a very interesting track that has caused me to stop my vehicle. Let's have a look at it there. Now, often when you see something like that, could be where a cat's been lying down. In this case, however, it is not where a cat's being lying down. It's where a medium to large bird, either a francolin or a hornbill, has been having a dust bath. You can just see on the edge there, I think there. I think just looking at the track, I think it's a hornbill who's been having a dust bath here. Now, there's no tracks leading up to it, and that's why it's a bird. It's just landed there and sort of fluffed itself in the sand. There's a couple of different reasons birds dust bath. One of the main reasons is to get rid of ectoparasites, specifically things like mites. And I'm sure it just feels quite nice as well, a little scratcheroo. So we're looking for any sign of big cats possibly moving down from the north. So Tingana crossed, or we think it's Tingana, a male leopard, crossed around Sydney's dam. So we're just checking now if it's come back. And also, 3 of the Nkahuma ladies were at a place called the Nyala Dam, which is about over there, sort of directly opposite Buffalo's Hook Dam. Now, we're going to see if they've possibly come back to the west. We're just going to go very slowly down the northern boundary, and hopefully something will pop out. You can just see the mist in the valleys as we go forward. What was that, Phil? Is that an impala in the road? Yes, an impala. And a very warm safari live welcome to Sandy, who's in Canada. Sandy would like to know, would a leopard or a lion ever hunt down a jackal? Yes, is the answer, Sandy. And actually, just after I first arrived at Safari Live, unfortunately, it was off air. I was with Brian, and we were with Quarantine, the male leopard, actually very close to where the Djuma Dam cam is, but in slightly further to the south. And we had just finished the show, and Quarantine was having a snooze, and we were waiting for one of the landowners from Buffalo's Hook to get there, because if we had just left, he wouldn't have been able to find the leopard. So we're just sitting there. Brian and I were chatting and waiting for the landowner from Buffalo's Hook to arrive. And so you heard this. So I turned on my lights and picked up my spotlight. And there was a little side-striped jackal being chased by two hyenas. And this poor jackal got chased right into Quarantine, and he jumped on it and bit it in the middle of the back, and the hyenas chased him. So this poor jackal was half alive with a broken back. So its front legs were working, but its back legs weren't. And so this poor jackal was sitting there going, "Nyeh." And eventually the hyenas, after chasing Quarantine up a tree, came back and ate the jackal. So they do, and we've actually seen it here on Djuma. And quite a long time after that, Joni was walking around that area, and she actually found the front part of the upper jaw, so the nose section with the canines of the jackal we saw, or Brian and I saw, being killed by Quarantine. Now, this is the first spot we ever saw Tsakani, the female leopard, so maybe she's about. I haven't seen her since I've been back from leave. The only leopard sighting we had is a very brief view of shadow in the tree yesterday, and I just saw the movement of the cub at the bottom, prompting me to leave the area because it was getting dark. Jim Butler, who's done quite a few visits to the Kruger National Park, has said he's seen quite a few black-back jackal, but never a side stripe. What is the ratio? Jim, to have an exact ratio, I would be lying if I tried to guess. Side stripes prefer the type of bush we're in up here, and this is what we call broad-leaved woodland. Black-backs you're going to find more often on open grasslands, around watercourses. The side stripe are less dependent on water because they do eat a lot of fruits. So this is very good side stripe jackal territory. They do also like a good open area, but they are less likely to be found on vast open areas. So it all depends whereabouts in Kruger you've been. They also, side stripes are very fond of Mopani Veld. So if you're in the south and central areas, you're going to see more black-back jackals, specifically around Satara and areas like that. But if you head north, sort of north of Shingredzi, up towards Pafuri, although on the Luvuvu River itself, you're going to see black-back, but just back from there in the woodlands, you're not going to see them. So hey guys, game live quickly. Morning Orbs, nothing for Buatela. I heard on Eastern Channel there was, in Konzo, I think they might have located Wanuna Ingwe on CP and Dao, and in Konzo Shikankank in Koro CP boundary. Copy orbs. I'm doing Orbs of Gary cut live from Sydney's. It's just so spectacular in the mornings now. VM's already said we've got to try avoid these areas on these cold mornings. So we're definitely not going to be driving twin dams. At the bottom, you can actually feel the temperature drop as we get lower. And it's really cold in the bottom. But fortunately, we're not hanging around at the bottom for too long. And we're going up where it's warmer. So, Rachel's wondering, do the side stripe and blackback jackal have similar calls? Not at all. A side stripe is far more silent than a blackback. Blackback quite often like to call early mornings, early evenings, and it's actually a spectacularly beautiful, haunting call. I'll try to do it for you. It's probably not going to be the best version, but it's sort of side stripe are almost always silent unless they're alarm calling. What did you spot at Liam? Liam looks like he saw something. He got excited there. Across the road? In the middle of the road. Let's have a look. Liam thinks he might have spotted some leopard tracks while I was making silly noises. So while we try to figure out what tracks Liam spotted, let's go see what Steph's up to on Shank's pony.
Now, I'm constantly amazed at the smaller things here in the bush. And one of the things that has been outstanding this year has been the spiders. Now, while we haven't seen too many spiders, the huge variety of spiders that we've been seeing has been something phenomenal on this bushwalk, to be quite honest. Right here, we have an orb spider that has managed to catch a fly, but you can't see that from that angle. But what you can see is this beautiful orb spider here. And another thing that you might be able to see from where you are is the fact that her web is almost invisible. And that to me shows that she's done the most superb job. And this all from an insect or an organism that doesn't have even a rudimentary brain. They've got a collection, a little clump of cells that people call a brain, but it's just really a clump of cells. And what this spider has managed to do is figure out general wind direction. And when she built her web, she was able to build her web perpendicular to the wind direction. And flies, which will probably be her major source of food here, because her web is very delicate, flies would then fly with the wind, making through this gap. The fly didn't want to get here. They don't want to land on these branches, because these branches are full of very camouflaged predators, things like praying mantises. What this fly did was come through this gap, staying away from the sticks, and get caught by this invisible web. And this beautiful orb web spider that's living inside of this web. Dave, how are the colors looking on her from that side? We've got a misty morning this morning, and so we haven't got too much light to play with. But she's actually quite a pretty lady. She's just finished her fly, or she's repositioning for her fly at least anyway. Right. There we go. So there we've got a nice show for you now. You can see her using her fly and her beautiful patterns on the ventral side of this orb web spider with her legs. And I've actually got an opinion on this spider. We're seeing quite a lot of orb web spiders. Some of them have larders in the middle of their webs, and things like the garden orb spiders have the stabilimentum, which I'm sure if you've watched the show for a long time you've seen. This particular spider has these zebra striped legs. Now, contrasting colors in the insect world are a warning. You see these zebra striped legs I think that she's holding her legs out of her abdomen like that as a warning to bigger insects or potentially even birds. They would veer away from seeing that bright color, that brightly contrasting color. That would stick out like a signboard. They'd veer away and not take her out in the middle of her web. But it didn't work for the fly, and the reason for that is that a fly would have just avoided it and gotten stuck in the web on either side. And this is the extent of her orb web here. It's quite big. It's probably about as big as my hand. I'm going to put my hand there. That's the extent, just a little bit bigger, of her orb. And she's tiny. There's my thumbnail, and I don't have the world's biggest hands, and you can see she's probably half the size of my thumbnail. Legs outstretched, probably just a little bit bigger. And there, in between this, she's managed to catch a fly. Ooh. James, you've asked me a good question here, man. How many times will a spider in its lifetime shed its skin? James, to be honest with you, I don't think that there is actually a number, a specific number. Spiders will shed their skin when they get too big for their previous one. And that, in my opinion, would be temperature and food dependent. So temperature and food dependent will determine the size of the spider. And that will determine how many times they lose their or shed their skin and get a little bit bigger. As to a minimum amount of times, I'm unable to tell you at this particular moment in time. I don't have my spider encyclopedia with me at the moment. But that was a very good question, and well done. All right, I think we're going to move on from this beautifully colored little orb spider eating her fly breakfast. Oh, I want to try one more thing. Dave, how tight can you get on these, using the mist on these radial strands? We're just going to try something here, guys. What we're going to try and do is the mist has just caught on the sticky strands around this particular spider. Dave, what I'll do is I'll put my grass there so that you can see. And hopefully with this amazing camera that we've got, you can actually see the little glue globules on the sticky radial strands of her web. So I can't see it with my naked eye, and that is one of these things with this bushwalk camera that's just so fantastic, is that you can perhaps see the little globules of sticky glue that this spider will have put at intervals on these radial things, and that would have entrapped that fly. Get it? Sort of. Well, David's doing an amazing job at trying to get it. I may have sold him down the road with that one there. So Ellen, all the way from Arkansas, and I suppose, Ellen, you've been wanting to ask this question about, is the bushes damp and wet from humidity and moisture this morning, and will that do something to the animal movement? Yes, I would say it is. These bushes are pretty wet at the moment. They're not running with water, but as you can see there, they definitely have some moisture on them. And that will not hamper animals too much, to be quite honest with you, Ellen. It's not going to slow them down. It's not a particularly cold morning. It's not a particularly wet morning. It's also not a particularly humid morning, although it's quite damp. There's a bit of a mist in the air. It's going to do nothing to the animals, in my opinion, this morning. It might make it a bit, it might take a bit longer for animals to, or for insects to get going this morning. Oh, my grandpa hip at the moment. I'm getting as bad as Brent with my sore legs at the moment. What it might do is the cold-blooded animals, it might make them take slightly longer to get going this morning, but I don't think on larger animals anyway, I don't think it'll have too much of a hamper. But anyway, we are heading into a block today that we hardly ever walk. For some reason, we either go north or south of it. In actual fact, apart from where we are standing now, I haven't even crossed through this area on foot yet. And I'm looking forward to exploring this drainage line with you a little bit closer. We've already heard elephant trumpeting not too far in front of us. And hopefully, while we explore here and try and bring out more little treasures for you, we can see one of those as well. But Jamie's got an update for you, and we'll catch you up a little bit later.
We've arrived at Cheetah Plains after a somewhat chilly race along the road, and every now and again if you see Jandre giving the screen a quick wipe, it's just because it's a somewhat misty morning this morning, which keeps filtering through onto the lens. I've come through, I found the leopard tracks going straight into the lodge. Unfortunately, it seems as though I don't have any vehicle signal there, so I'll keep you updated on that. Big male leopard, I would guess at either Tingano or Mvula, or maybe, you never know, one of the other larger males, but whichever leopard it was has considerably large feet. Wandered across quite possibly right past the guest rooms whilst they slept last night, which is always an exciting thing, especially for South Africa, to have a leopard maybe even sawing outside their bedroom window, which is a wonderful experience. And unfortunately our cheetah decided to go north into Nkoro and around that area, but I'm still hopeful, because you never know, they might have decided to change direction and come back to the south. We know how much they enjoy the clearings, so we'll go and see if there's any sign of them coming through that way. It's interesting. Alright, this is something I've just noticed. Spotted hyenas typically mark regularly used pathways with latrines. In other words, they defecate in the same place multiple times and on multiple occasions. And I'm just looking here, I'm seeing a great deal of white hyena scat. White, of course, because of the high levels of calcium in their diet. But it's not just one pile. There are several piles of hyena scat out here. And typically, they don't use latrines, or hyenas don't just use latrines to delineate boundaries, but that can be quite a good indication that this is the area that they have either used regularly as a pathway, or that they are going to delineate as a boundary. See, all different ages. That particular one Jandre is showing you at the moment is faded and crumbled. It's been trodden on by something moving through, or just slowly broken apart with age. It's interesting, they've done a great deal of research into the way in which hyenas use latrines in their day-to-day movements, and basically, particularly in areas like the desert areas, where the territories or the home ranges of a hyena are absolutely enormous. Isn't it interesting the way that they sort of have pathways radiating out from the main den sites, all with regular latrines along the way, and latrines becoming more and more concentrated towards den sites. Now, as far as we know, and as far as anybody knows, there are no den sites on Cheetah Plains. Doesn't mean they haven't been in the past, and it doesn't mean that this is one of the main pathways of at least one of the hyena clans. Should we go over there and just get an update from, who's this? Ephraim. Morning! Good, and you? Sorry everybody, didn't mean to shout at you, I'm just saying hello to Ephraim. Hi guys.
Hello. Where the animals? Nothing.
I don't know. They're too cold. They're sheltering somewhere. I haven't seen anything this morning, just some deka. The Minora Ingwe tracks, I don't know, I couldn't follow up, we've got no signal here. But I saw them going straight towards the lodge.
You can improve the signal.
Yeah, we can't go there, so I can't follow up. But there's.
I'll go around this way.
Yeah, go maybe popped out on the other side of the lodge.
Yeah, I know, like the most likely go like in Aneti, Malamala.
Yeah, and then the Skankank apparently north into Nkoro.
We see this track like yesterday.
Okay.
Was going to Nkoro. I think the guys in Nkoro even see it like yesterday.
Okay. Alright, sorry if no updates for you this morning.
No problem.
It's okay, I'll go find you in Ingwe now.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheers guys. Sorry about that everyone, just having a useful communication between myself and Ephraim of Cheetah Plains, just to divide our time and our resources. He's going to go and see if he can follow up on that leopard, although he thinks that the leopard has already crossed towards Mala Mala. And we were speaking a little bit about that particular midden or latrine of the hyenas. And Murphy, you were wondering, in a case where a lion is a hyena den, would they stake it out in order to essentially, what would be the word, to streamline the process of removing competition, if I could say that like that. Of course, hyenas and whenever they have the opportunity to come into, or generally they'll avoid conflict with each other, but if they do, lions will go out of their way, particularly young males, to kill them if they can catch them. Depends how much energy they want to expend in doing so, but no, lions won't stake out a hyena den. They can't really afford the resources or the waste of time, to be completely honest. They might set up shop for a while, especially, as I said, with young males. There's a degree of curiosity to their movements and the way in which they interact with their world. So I've seen young males hunt lions, hunt rhino before, with no real chance of success, just as a way of experimentation. And I've seen young males go out of their way to chase leopards, and we've just got the most, oh no, don't go away. One's gone, but the other is gone too. It was a gorgeous pair of African hawk eagles that had settled in that dead tree. They're one of my absolute, hands down, favorite raptor species. You always see them in pairs, specialized in hunting in pairs, with one flying higher and one lower. Ambush predators are sort of specializing in guinea fowl and other francolins and spur fowls, sort of large size game birds. Oh, but we've got a lovely bachelor herd of impala that's just wandered through. Hello boys, how's the rutting season treating you? Apparently not terribly well. Let's go forward a bit, they might decide to spar. So Murphy, just to finish off with your question, generally no. A lion will not waste the time or the energy staking out a hyena den, waiting for the cubs to emerge. And bear in mind that hyenas are not without resources as well. And generally speaking, no animal out here wants to risk or run the risk of an injury, because even the smallest injury can make the difference between life and death out here. And hyena clans is not without resources. So the females, if that were to happen, I'm not saying that it's likely, but if that were to happen, the females could well call upon the, there we go, oh, very lazy, somewhat almost absent-minded sparring. Yes, hyenas could actually call each other and gang up on said lions. So lions are not really going to take that risk. As we watch the impala disappear off into the bush, we're going to head across to the great open area of Cheetah Plains. While we do that, let's head across and have a look at some insects that Steph has found on his bushwalk.
Well, you know, this little drainage line that we're discovering at the moment is all just so full of surprises at the moment. Dave's just getting caught up in a wait a bit bush. But have a look at this wonderful, wonderful sight here. This is actually a full-grown grasshopper pair. There's a male and a female here. The top one is the female, she's the bigger one. The bottom, more colorful one, is the male. And they were relaxing here on this branch, very camouflaged. The reason why they're very camouflaged is that grasshoppers are daytime animals, and at nighttime they sleep. And at nighttime, there's a whole different set of insects that come out and play. And by standing very still, by being as camouflaged as possible, these grasshoppers stand the best chance of survival when it's daytime and they can see what they're doing, they can use those massive legs that they've got there to jump away from danger. But at night time they use their camouflage and the fact that they're very still. Now the reason why male and female are together is because they've probably been mating with each other yesterday. End of the season, the female will then go and lay an egg sac with some eggs in it, and they will hatch out when it becomes spring again. For now, these two are just played out a little courtship with one another. But what I did want to show you was the fact that even though they're so small, and I mean you can see how small they are, I'll put my baby finger next to them. The female is no bigger than my baby thumbnail, or my baby finger's nail. They, nonetheless, one of the most beautifully colored grasshoppers. She's bigger, he's smaller, but infinitely more brightly colored, and I think that's because he needs to be more attractive. She's bigger, she needs to stay hidden, and she will use song and pheromone to attract him. He will use his ingenuity not to get eaten, and then show off his bright colors. Alright, we've got some elephants trumpeting around us at the moment. They're probably about 50 or 60 meters away, and trumpeting. They found something there. And I want to go and have a look at what they're finding. So we're going to carry on with this little game path that we're on at the moment. We're going to be cautiously heading towards where these elephants are making a noise. I do know this area a little bit. There are some big termite mounds we can use as cover. Hopefully when we get to wherever they are, there are some big termite mounds for us to use as cover. Sounds like a herd. Yeah, we'll take it as it comes. Let's go and have a look. As I mentioned, we don't really know this particular patch of bush. Watch out for the thorns there, Dave. I know what roads are on either side of it. We don't actually know what's right here. That's what makes these little journeys of discovery so nice. The two roads that we're between at the moment are Zoe's Road and Quarantine. One of the roads that ring Quarantine. So we're not too far away from camp. But as I mentioned, for some reason we hardly ever walk here. Dave giving the camera a bit of a shake because he thorned himself. He's now expressing much blood out of his arm. And I'll show you what Dave hooked himself on. Have a look at this. This is a black monkey thorn acacia, and hidden in these leaves are a bunch of viciously hooked thorns. Have a look at that. The thorns themselves are not designed solely so that Dave can bleed all over the place. They're made so that animals can stop stripping the leaves off of the branch. So they're made to snag lips and to prohibit animals, browsers predominantly, from putting their mouth over a stick and then just sort of doing this and going and snagging it. I'm not going to do that with you. I don't feel like bleeding this morning, but yeah, that's it, black monkey thorn. Alright, we are going to need to link away from you while we see what's happening with these elephants. We're going to need to have a little bit of stealth, but while we do that, we'll come back to you hopefully with a surprise down the tubes.
So we are now on the eastern edge of our traverse area, and we're hoping for any tracks of any big cat. So far, unfortunately, nada. But it is a beautiful morning. It's gorgeous light around us, and we're just hoping to put a leopard in this gorgeous light. But it helps if we've got a track to follow. So we're just really enjoying the morning so far. It is wonderful to be out in the early morning. It was definitely, I think, my favorite time of the day. To be cruising the bushveld. So Mobile Paddy would like to know which endangered species in the Kruger gets the least attention. And it's a very interesting question. So obviously a lot of your sexy species, cheetah, wild dog, get quite a bit of attention. But I think, maybe roan antelope. What do you think, Sam? The endangered species from the Kruger that gets the least attention. Although roan gets quite a bit of attention. Roan antelope, I think, maybe. Or the Lubombo flat lizard. Only occurs on a few granite koppies on the eastern boundary of Kruger with Mozambique. It's a tiny little lizard with a red head. And that is well, I suppose it's not really endangered, it's endemic, so it only occurs there because the habitat is only perfect in those sort of 5 or 6 spots. But out of the bigger stuff, I'd say probably roan antelope or sesame antelope. Sesame are endangered in South Africa, but by no means endangered further north. They're actually quite common. So that's a local thing. It's not ideal sesame country, that's why. It's also not ideal roan or sable country. Can you think of anything else endangered, Jim? Animal in the Kruger? You'll probably find there's some tiny mouse that only lives in one patch of Mapani fault. That's probably the one that gets the least attention. But, or some insect, there we go. I know. The spotted killifish only occurs in 3 pans on the Mozambique border. And very few people even know it exists. Very, very beautiful little fish that has a very short life cycle, and it only lives in temporary pans. And they occur throughout Africa, but they're very, very specific. And one of the reasons they're endangered is because of the pet trade. Everyone likes to keep killifish in their aquariums. So I think that's probably the one that garners the least attention, in the spotted killifish. I was lucky enough when I lived in the Kruger to get special permission from the section ranger of the area I was living in to go into the Pumbe sandveld. And most of that sandveld is in Mozambique, but there is a little bit in Kruger. And a friend of mine and myself, we got permission to go up there and go hunt for killifish, and we actually managed to catch 2 in the Pumbe pan, and that is the best place to see killifish. But very, very interesting little creatures, and very specific lifestyle cycle that's to do with the rains, and their eggs can actually lie dormant for 5, 6, 7 years if there's no rain. I think out of all the killifish, and most of them are endangered, my favorite killifish actually lives in Zambia on the Kafui Flats, and they are very specific that they almost always have to live in an elephant footprint that's been filled with water on this vast floodplain. That's their little niche, and the Kafui killifish. Very cool creatures. I, of course, caught, photographed, looked at, and then released. The killifish I've seen. So while we continue to check for any sign of big cats, I think let's head back to Steph, who's on foot.
While we're busy sneaking up on what sounds like a herd of elephants that's busy surrounding us at the moment, I don't know, they're 100 or 200 meters away from us, but yet while we're doing it, have a look at this absolutely fantastic sight. This is an elephant that's decided that he wanted to eat the very top leaf of this tree and has pushed it down, and pushed it down with all its sand and everything still attached. And it gives us the wonderful opportunity of seeing how epic it is. And the scale that these animals can change their habitat at is just absolutely astounding. you can see here how they've ripped the ground out, the roots have been ripped out, and how it's taken the tree and the sand and everything with it. The elephant then would have moved around the tree and would have eaten some of the leaves on the other side, and thus forcing leaf cover that would be out of the reach of basically anything else back into its reach, and creating a seed bed for grasses and for other things that are underneath it. Isn't that wonderful? Alright. And then after we've, while we still carry on looking for these ellies, we're going to send you back through to Jamie.
Mobile Paddy, I was actually thinking about the answer to your question about the most endangered animal that probably gets the least attention. And it's a really good one, and I think the answer of roan is a very, very interesting one, as well as the fish. And of course there's all kinds of species that get overlooked in favor of the big hairies and scaries, so to speak. And speaking of big hairies and scaries, I just came upon very, very fresh leopard tracks. Female leopard, not the male that I mentioned earlier. So it seems as though Inkanyeni is somewhere in this vicinity. So keep your eyes peeled, because they were that crisp, shiny, fresh track look of pug marks left by a leopard wandering down sometime in the last, if I had to guess, I'd say the last 2 hours. Total guess, absolute guess. She's gone off the road, though I can't stop to show you her tracks now. Much bigger feet. I don't know if it's in Kanyeni, by the way. It's a female leopard. Bigger feet than Karula, just judging by the size. And she's here somewhere. The question is, was she on a mission? She didn't look like she was hunting, just judging by the way that she was walking in the road. Walking with purpose. Striding with purpose, I think. So I've picked the general direction just to see if she hasn't come out at one of the watering holes. If she hasn't, then I'll jump off and I'll go for a bit of a walk. We're just that little bit too far behind, not too far behind them, we're just that little bit far behind them that I want to make sure that she hasn't come back out into the road before I go walking through the block. Now that is exciting. I've never seen Inkanyeni. It would be something that I would eagerly anticipate. I wonder where she would be. Inkanyeni's also got 2 cubs with her that are now, they must be about 4.5, coming up to 5 months old. I also haven't seen them just yet. And I have seen pictures of them. They do look like very interesting little characters. Brent tells me that the male is very bold and very curious. She's somewhere here. She might even be on her way to fetch the cubs and to take them to a kill. Well, since I haven't found any sign of her coming out here, and we're coming up to the water hole, let's just see if there's anything on the open plains. Doesn't look like it. Alright, I'm going to send you over to Bushwalk so that I can double check from where I last saw those tracks. I'll catch up with you soon.
Now, what this butterfly is, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm not as good as Brent is with these butterflies. But what is immediately apparent on this wonderfully colored butterfly is the fact that it's trying to deceive predators. It has 2 ends. This is its real head here, with this quite funny clubbed antennae at the end of the grass there. And then on the other end, it has additions to its wings that allow it to have a second pair of antennae and almost a second face. Its abdomen is colored, or the back end of its abdomen is colored exactly the same color as what its face is, which gives this particular butterfly 2 heads. And that means that animals that want to sneak up from this butterfly from behind, predators that will be using cover from behind, would be scared. Now similarly, human beings have done that before. I remember a wonderful story as a child, growing up listening to stories of Indian tigers and about man-tiger conflicts, where people used to walk through the forest with a mask on the back of their head to make it look like they had a face on the back of their head, and this would deter tigers from jumping out of the undergrowth and biting them. And when I look at a wonderful example of this, I don't even know what the phenomenon is called, but this pseudo head that this particular butterfly has got, and just what it's trying to accomplish, to me is just absolutely fascinating. You can see, while we just reposition slightly, how there's the pseudo antennae and the pseudo face, and on this side is his real face. Now what this butterfly is doing is positioning itself perpendicular to the sun and warming up the fluid in its wings, which is then pumped into its body and will then raise its metabolic rate and its temperature to one where it can start flying around. Now early morning is not really a good time for butterflies out here, but when we go running in our afternoons, mostly around about 12, 1 o'clock, these fields are just full of butterflies. Isn't that wonderful? Looks nice, eh, Dave?
Yes.
And of course, where you are with this camera, you can get so super tight with so much detail on these things. It's just crazy. I have to get on my hands and knees and really get my eyeball right up to a thing before it sees the detail that you see. Now, we are looking for some elephant that are in the vicinity. They've stopped trumpeting, which makes it quite difficult to try and place them. The last time we heard them, they were off in this direction, running away, what sounds like running away from something. Behind us I have heard the cracking of a branch, and off to my left hand side, on this side, we've also heard some tummy grumbles or some vocalizations from the lower end of the elephant spectrum. So I think that there's possibly a split herd here, or there were 2 herds that came together and they've been running around in the melee trying to separate themselves. And so what was quite nice, we were standing here listening to this. That's our number one asset when we're on a bushwalk, is to listen to the bush and use these massive kudu ears that I was blessed with to great effect here in the bush to try and listen around us. And then we will use our sight and we'll use all our skills. But for me, the number one thing in the bush is my ears. And like I said, luckily I was blessed with a proper pair of them. Right, we're in a seepline area where we are now, and as you no doubt would have heard my colleagues, my very knowledgeable colleagues, tell you from time to time, this is an area that's waterlogged, and that's allowed no trees to germinate, and that's allowed this meadow to basically come about, and that's why it gives it this nice sort of parkland look. And I find it quite appealing, this type of bush. This meadow parkland created by waterlogged soil from seep lines that lie underneath our feet. But on that note, we're going to send you through to Brent. Keep on looking for these elephant.
Welcome. So, no one has been able to find Karula, so Liam and I have decided to come check very carefully along the southern boundary. We're also going to go still check for shadow again, but one of the more annoying tracks when you are looking for leopard is this track. You got it there, Glenn? There it is. Now, the front part always almost looks like a cat track. You have to go on to the right a bit. Let me see where you are. Oh, there we go. So when you're driving, it quite often looks, you just see the front foot there, and it's about the right size for a leopard. It looks like a leopard, but it's not. It's a knuckle. And there we have the back track, and you can even see the thumb sticking out there. So, a baboon track. Sorry?
I'm losing your mic.
Losing mic. Turn around. So it's a baboon track. There's the thumb. There's that, and that there that looks very similar to a leopard track is those front knuckles of a baboon. So we have been seeing a lot of baboon tracks. I just want to have a look at another track over here. Baboons, 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 baboons. Baby baboon, big baboon. Baby baboon, big baboon. Annoying primates. Especially when you're trying to find leopards. What you spotted, Jim?
Sunbathing squirrel.
A sunbathing squirrel. Where are we looking now? Trying to see. Oh, there we go. Well done. We're going to find quite a few animals that bask at the moment. Squirrels, monkeys,